So in this segment, we're going to be talking about this crappy op-ed in Politico, which claims it can fix, how to fix Brexit's Northern Ireland Protocol problem. So, you know, the only way we can do that is by rejoining the single market. But let's see what this person has to say. Raul something, can't pronounce his second name, Ruparel. There we go, boom. He was the Prime Minister's special advisor on Europe under Theresa May, and was directly involved in the Brexit negotiations for 3 years. Hell of a job he did. Last year, he predicted how the two sides would break a major deadlock over fishing. So this op-ed, this person, I don't want to be super mean to them, feels like they fail to understand that one of the major problems of the Irish sea border isn't the logistics of it. It's the fact that people like in the DUP don't like the fact that a trade border exists. That's it. They don't like it. It doesn't matter if it was just 1% of goods being checked. They don't like the trade border because it separates GB from Northern Ireland, and also pushes Northern Ireland closer to the Republic of Ireland, as they become more reliant on each other for trade and other things, especially regulatory, where the Northern Ireland have been kept within the single market, and so the Republic of Ireland has more say over regulations in Northern Ireland than GB does. If GB start deregulating, Northern Ireland can't do it because they're stuck within the EU single market. So for some reason this person, I think, fails to actually talk about that. And this person goes to solve the logistics of Brexit, rather than the actual political problem of the Northern Ireland Protocol. He looks for a physical solution, which isn't the main problem. Food prices are going up within Northern Ireland in a major part due to these checks, but people aren't rioting because they're protesting over the price of food. Now they're protesting the border itself. So come on, man. Like, if it takes me to explain that to you, Raoul, like, you wasted your time in government, my friend. So 3 months into Brexit, we need a permanent fix to the problems at the Northern Ireland border. So step one of an op-ed, clickbait article. Step two, offer an overinflated ego of yourself, claiming you can fix the problem. So the Northern Ireland Protocol, which keeps Northern Ireland within the EU's customs union and single market for goods, means checks and controls need to be imposed on goods moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. All right, most of us, pretty much all of us, know this by now. Good start. But ongoing problems for businesses in Northern Ireland saw the UK controversially and unilaterally extend grace periods for food moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland that led to much anger in Brussels, and rightfully so. Despite the tensions, both sides have committed to make the protocol work because both sides really don't have a choice. Really don't. They have to make this work because unless the UK joins the single market, we're going to see not just violence within Northern Ireland. If this thing doesn't work, we're going to see violence all over that Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland border, because you're going to see a repeat of the Troubles, and no one wants to see that. It's in no one's interest to see that unless you sell petrol and other things you need for a violent riot. So here's what's at stake, and here's how they might do it. So if no permanent solution is found, food businesses like supermarkets face significant burdens at the end of the current grace periods, which waive checks. So the potential disruption centres for sanitary, and is it pronounced phytosanitary? Is that how you pronounce it? SPS checks, as I like to call it, so I don't have to pronounce the words. Mean that traders need export health certificates for many products, including official sign-offs from vets. That's something we know as well, that things have to be signed off. At the moment, from what I've read, the EU only checks, I think, 30% of consignments coming out from the UK. So, they haven't been as aggressive as they could have been. So thanks, guys, I guess. So the total time and cost associated with the will disrupt the Northern Ireland's food supply chains, and we've spoken about that before, how it adds a long time onto lorries and a lot of costs, etc. I think costs have gone up per consignment between £50 and £350 depending on what's there. Yet the two existing ideas for a long-term fix to the SPS problem don't look viable. The first, what's it called? Yeah, the ideas for a long-term fix to the SPS problem don't look viable. Okay, so the first is an SPS agreement similar to that of the one the EU has with Switzerland, that essentially requires Switzerland to adopt all EU legislation in the area to remove any need for certification or checks. Britain has made it clear it would not agree to anything which involves indefinite alignment of rules. So this approach is politically unworkable. This is something the UK could do, but we chose not to. Also, I don't know how much the EU would want to do this model, considering that Switzerland is a pain for the EU to deal with because of how kind of entangled the two are through various agreements, etc. So it's simply copying this agreement. He mentions that it will be likely unacceptable to the EU. At the very least, it would need its own bespoke dispute resolution mechanism, and the EU has been clear it won't replicate that process with Switzerland. So the UK following the Swiss model, that's out. The second is a veterinary agreement, similar to that the EU has with New Zealand. We've done a video which speaks about how it's easier for the EU to import beef from New Zealand than it is from the UK. So this would not require any alignment of rules, but it will seek to acknowledge the other's the other party's high SPS standards. So it's an equivalency agreement saying that we're not exactly the same, but we're about the same, so it's cool. And allow for a reduction in the proportion of goods needing checks at the border. So that's not going to solve the problem with the Northern Ireland border. I think I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's a low percentage of meats that are checked from New Zealand going to the EU. I think it's in the single digits rather than the UK's 30%. So, even this plan would not fundamentally change the major burdens on business in Northern Ireland, given that they arise from the nature of the checks and certification needed and not just their volume. So again, how are you going to solve the problem like you've given in your title? You've said you're going to solve the Northern Ireland border problem. Let's have a look again quickly. How to fix Brexit's Northern Ireland protocol problem. You have not offered any solutions. You admit to offering no solutions. So, again, this is just a massive fraud. So it says here, a UK-wide approach would involve the UK and EU reaching a novel SPS agreement based on managing divergence to try and limit the need for any checks or certification. But the thing is, you're still going to have some of these things are going to be checked, and if you don't have the right papers, they're going to get sent back. And what's going to happen is, if this keeps happening, that you're going to be like, look, we're going to be checking more and more things, and you're going to have further problems and that kind of trust breaking down. So the concept of managing divergence is already part of the TCA, the UK committing not to regress on current labour and social employment laws. If it does, the EU can take remedial measures. This is enforced and overseen by a panel of experts. So that's great. Furthermore, a rebalancing clause allows either side to take steps if a trade distorting gap opens in the legislation of the two parties. So I assume that means that if the UK up standards massively and the UK don't, a dispute can arise from that. If the UK has decided not to follow EU laws in the future, together these processes provide a mechanism for managing divergence. So while the mechanisms in the TCA are focused on avoiding tariffs, applying these principles for agri-food would make sense. If Britain decided to regress and change SPS standards, the EU would be free to take remedial measures and reinstitute full certification and checks. Similarly, if the EU instituted new regulations and legislation in SPS areas and the UK does not follow, the EU could respond. So I have no massive idea what he's trying to say here. I think it mentions it later on a bit, but again, what's he saying? That if Britain decided to regress, I think he's saying that all the things are in place that if any kind of dispute arises when it comes to SPS standards and legislation. So these judgments would likely focus less on distortion on trade, but any reduction in quality. The TCA already provides for a rapid response, and the process should be supplemented by a strong domestic enforcement agency on both sides. So, the EU already has strong domestic enforcement agencies on their side. I think our side isn't too bad. For example, checks on live animals between Northern Ireland and GB and Northern Ireland are working relatively well and were present to some extent before Brexit. So, Again, I don't know why they were present if we trust everyone, but whatever. The solution essentially means minimal to no barriers on agriculture, food. So he's talking about equivalency here. That's kind of the thing he's talking about. Sorry, I'm just being dumb. He was saying that if they do agree to a novel SPS agreement, what that means is that the UK, sorry, I was being really stupid. If the UK does diverge or whatever, there can be things put in place to stop it. The solution essentially means minimal to no barriers on agri-food, but still lets the UK diverge in future if it wants to. It would look similar to the Swiss agreement on the ground and arguably offer more protection for the EU by having a clear, rapid resolution. So, saying that, the EU and UK should agree to an SPS agreement, which will reduce checks, but if the UK does diverge, then the EU can put in mechanisms. But why would the EU want to go through that headache when we've proved ourselves to not be trustworthy of such agreements anyways? We've already broken things like the Northern Ireland Protocol anyways, and we did pass the Internal Market Bill, which would break international law in a limited and specific way. So the UK would be meeting the required EU law while gaining the benefits of the agreement, and if it stopped meeting those requirements, it would stop gaining the benefits. But why would the EU trust someone who has proven themselves cannot be trusted? So that's dumb. That's a dumb argument, especially since we don't want this stuff. Politically, we do not want SPS agreements, etc. with the EU. We're trying to say that we can do it on our own. We can make up laws, whatever. Why would we want an agreement with an organization we just left? It's very stupid. That argument there is very stupid. If the UK-wide resolution is not desirable, there is another plan, and this one is Northern Ireland specific. Such an approach has already been floated by Northern Ireland business groups, which it would extend the concept of goods being deemed at risk of being sold in the EU from such tariffs, and rules of origins now include agriculture. If there's no risk, goods will be sold on. That's already going on now. If there's no risk of a product being sold in the Republic of Ireland, then I don't think it's subject to checks, or it has lower checks. But if Britain and the EU agree to extend grace periods until the end of the year and crucially set up extensive monitoring and data sharing, it will bolster confidence in such a plan. But the thing is, you can't have a digital border. You can't do that. So this will just increase smuggling and create a backdoor into the EU. This is not going to work. Firms who have consistent data to prove their goods are only sold in Northern Ireland should qualify for the waivers from the end of the grace periods. But how many firms are there that just sell things to Northern Ireland and not to the Republic of Ireland? Imagine if you send a lorry from GB and it goes to Northern Ireland, and it has a lot of stuff on it. Chances are it might end up going to the Republic of Ireland because you might have contractors there as well. So again, I don't know if that could even work. Technological border solutions don't work. How many countries have a purely technological border with a country that's outside their, customs union and, their kind of single market? None. The approach would require some derogation from EU law, but this could be justified by the unique circumstances in Northern Ireland and would not need to be copied elsewhere. I mean, sure. The Northern Ireland Protocol already does this by keeping Northern Ireland in the EU's customs union and single market for goods, but not the rest of the single market. So many on the EU side will ask why they should not agree to either of these. The Northern Ireland Protocol has a consent mechanism built in, meaning it ultimately rests on the support of the Northern Ireland Assembly. It would be a brave person indeed who would predict how Northern Irish politics would develop over the next 4 years, given the tension surfacing. So the question is, do the people of Northern Ireland want the safer, kind of more centrist parties, or do they want a bunch of fire starters like the DUP? That's up to you guys. You do whatever you want. The EU took on commitments and responsibilities for both communities in Northern Ireland when it agreed to the protocol, and this is not simply UK or Irish issue. The protocol promises to impact as little as possible on everyday life of communities in both Ireland and Northern Ireland. This applies not just to disruption to life across the border with Ireland, but to Northern Ireland's place as part of the United Kingdom. Again, this is a load of drivel. It's hard to see how that is being met under the current approach. Well, if that wasn't going to be met under the current approach, why did the UK agree to it? Riddle me that, my friend. These proposals are not about scrapping or removing the protocol, but ensuring it is both fair and sustainable. If they don't work, or if the UK chooses to diverge, worst case scenario, we end up where we started, with more bad will, less trust, and also more bitter people within Northern Ireland because they've been screwed again by the UK. So yeah, the argument we've got nothing to lose here, not a good one. Um, British politicians should listen to. The UK is arguably in the worst of all worlds when it comes to SPS regulations, aligned with the EU while being entirely treated like any third country. Again, if we wanted an SPS agreement, we could have got one. We chose not to because the UK is angling for a deal with the US, which does not have as high standards. Also, the CTPP, or whatever it's called, the agreement that the Eurasian contracts, I think. Eurasian countries have. I think that's what they're called. Also has lower food standards, and farmers are worried about that. We'll talk about that in a separate video. It's mentioned here. The CPTPP, which is far too many P's. So yeah, so for us to get into these trading blocks and also a deal with the US, it means that we can't have high SPS standards like the EU has, because those groups have lower food standards. So again, a very crappy argument, once again taken by this gentleman. By taking the UK-wide approach, Britain can bank the benefits of smooth trade while maintaining the right to do something in the future if it wishes. So the UK can make an agreement with an organisation if we wanted to leave because we wanted to diverge from their rules and standards. And once we decide we don't want to be a part of those rules and standards, we can diverge and go back to exactly where we were with less goodwill and more problems. Sick one, bro. Sick one. Neither approach would stop the UK agreeing a trade deal with the US or joining the CTPP. Oh my god, it will. Absolutely it will. If the UK agrees to higher standards with the EU, okay, we agree to a novel SPS agreement, and then we agree to do a trade deal with the US and or joining the CPTPP, okay, and we have to lower our food standards, you think the EU are going to be like, nah, it's cool, bro, or the EU going to be like, yo, we agreed to have high SPS standards. Why are you doing this to us? We had an agreement, and you've decided to ditch us. Once again, you cannot be trusted. And if you lower your food standards, there will be more SPS checks on goods going out from the UK, especially if we lower our internal food standards within the UK. And even if we don't do that, how do the EU know which products are from the US? That chlorinated chicken is coming from the US and they're not trying to get it into the EU. How do the EU know that? The only way they can stop that is by doing more aggressive border checks. Forget 30% checks on consignments. It's going to be far higher. This man's essay, is poor. This is one of the worst op-eds I have read from someone who claims to have knowledge, from someone who advised. No wonder Theresa May failed so badly. If she had a clown like you advising her, this essay gets an F. This op-ed gets an F. Okay. Not only did he fail to answer the question, which is how to fix Northern Ireland's protocol problem, which he didn't actually solve. He actually hasn't actually solved it because it's a political problem as well as a logistical problem. Even if it was just 1 or 2% of checks, the problem is that regulatory, when it comes to regulations and rules, etc., Northern Ireland are in a different boat when it comes to goods than the UK are. The UK can diverge and do as much stuff as we want. We can start doing chlorinated chicken or whatever, but Northern Ireland can't. We're separated. Northern Ireland is closer to the Republic of Ireland, and that is not what certain people in Northern Ireland want. That is not what the DUP want, and they're going to keep causing problems. So this argument this person is making are ridiculous. They are ridiculous. Okay, the argument that we can have a novel SPS agreement with the EU and join, do a deal with the US and the CPTPP. Honestly, this is the have your cake and eat it too argument. This is the Brexit means Brexit argument, but, we want to do deals with other countries, but we want to have high standards as well. The thing is, when you do a trade deal with a group or a country, typically, it's two countries coming to closer together when it comes to standards. So when we want to do a deal with the US, it's us going closer to their standards since they're the stronger party, and having to lower our standards. Whether that's putting farmers in the UK at disadvantage by us having high standards and then importing lower standard food, or our farmers lowering our standards and having lower quality food. And as Dr. Anna Jaworzeska points out, it's not an issue of, if you don't like it, don't buy it, because there are people who can't afford better quality meats and stuff like that. And once these cheap meats hit the shelves, it's going to put a lot of farmers out of business in the UK if we start importing lower quality meat from the US or wherever. And farmers in this country have to have higher standards and can't compete. Like Raoul, fam, start reading, start learning, because you're singing Breaking Benjamin failure right now because you are very bad at your job. And clearly, one of the reasons why Theresa May failed at her job, in terms of getting a decent deal with the EU and getting Brexit done, etc., is because she had idiots like you advising her. Absolute fraud. This man saying that, how to fix the Northern Ireland Protocol problem. You haven't offered any decent solutions, any political solutions. You offered some when it comes to SPS, etc., but the UK aren't going to agree to that. We're not going to sign up to a novel SPS agreement. Why? Because we're too arrogant to do that. We're too Brexity to do that. We don't want to have high standards. We want to have low standards. We want the peasants to fend for themselves. You absolute moron, Raoul. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. And hopefully next time we won't have to deal with this idiot.